Another book which you created was, of course, the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Now, where did they come from?
Fantastic Four, they're a conglomerate of people, different types. My job was to sell books. I couldn't and I wouldn't make the same bunch twice. I wouldn't draw the same bunch twice. And so the Fantastic Four became a conglomerate of people who did different things. Usually, I'm associated with, the readers have associated me with Ben Grimm.
I wonder why.
And I think in a way they're right. See? Now, Ben Grimm talks and acts just like I do. But of course, you know, he's a monstrosity, and I can still wear a suit and look like everybody else. But Ben Grimm is a natural guy. But for showy purposes, he's perfect. And he certainly does the things that I wish that I could do. Say,
yeah.
And he can tear an ash can up like we do paper, you know, and he can rescue people in manners that we can't. See, he can rip off the side of a building and maybe get the tenants out because it's going to explode. Ben Grimm can do it.
Yeah.
Other people, it would take many, many hours, see, and of course make the accidents unavoidable. What Ben Grimm did was shorten that time and solve the problem quicker than most people could.
I suspect there's also a lot of you in Sergeant Fury.
Sergeant Fury was WW2.
Yeah. A cigar chomping, no nonsense, get the heck out of my way.
Well, I was a combat infantryman.
Right.
I was with Patton's 5th Division. And whatever Sergeant Fury did, I did. I did it in the Losers. Like I said, I mentioned that tape. And there were other things. I put not exactly my own war experiences, which gave the strip a little authenticity, but I put my own feelings down. First of all, I was glad to be back, and I was glad to be alive. I didn't know how it happened. What happened was I froze my feet. And I was unconscious for days. I was lying in the snow. In fact, my whole battalion just conked out. You know, you can lay in the snow just for so long without any hotels around. So my feet were a nice deep purple. And I remember being in a hospital, and some of the DC editors came up to visit me. And by that time, I felt so fiercely annoyed. I told them to get out of my room. These guys were editors. Here I am, an artist, talking back to editors.
Now you were drafted along like Mort Weisinger and other editors.
I was in the same truck with Mort Weisinger. And Mort Weisinger didn't know how he got drafted. And he was saying it aloud, you know, while we were in the truck. And we were all headed for the POE, which is the port of embarkation in Boston. And there was a big convoy waiting with 25 ships. And but Mort Weisinger didn't go overseas. And so all
he was an editor.
Well, he was an editor. Yes. Me, they quickly put me on a ship. And everybody was lying out on deck. There were 2,000, 3,000 guys lying on a deck. And there was no room to walk. And I had to sleep. And so I happen to be Jewish. But I know the chaplains are supposed to have mercy on anybody. So I asked the chaplain if I could sleep in his room. If he had any space, I I would just lie down anywhere. And of course, the chaplain was very kind to me, and I found space on the ship where I could just fall asleep.
That's great.
So it was a wonderful experience to me, to involve myself with humanity in general.
Mm-hmm.
People certainly, I met people who, not of my own kind, and they'd look at me and they'd say, "What's a Brooklyn?" and things like that. Communications weren't as they are today. There were no airlines. I know, and there were no roadways where thousands of cars would go back and forth across the United States. Communications were rare. Texans never saw New Yorkers. Midwesterners never saw Texans. And Californians certainly didn't see anybody.
They preferred it that way.
Well, we got along, and at any rate, we all had one objective.
Mm-hmm.
And
to get home.
well, certainly, we did the best we could,
Yeah.
and I seemed to get along with them, and it went on that way aboard ship, and it went on that way. Well, it went on that way. We landed in Liverpool, and I got to see Liverpool at night. It was a grand sight because Liverpool was a wreck. And we went on from there.
Before we get to the other question, we'll open up the phone lines to the group mind. Our guest tonight, again, is Jack Kirby, one of the preeminent figures in comic book history. Our phone number is 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, if you want to talk to Mr. Jack Kirby, and you had some more stuff in the meanwhile.
Oh, don't even tell me you're coming back to me for a question.
I was surprising to see if you're still awake.
Okay, let's see what I have in here. When you first started working in comics in
Yes.
the early days, what were the working conditions like, and the pay, and
Well,
could you make a living working?
it was the reason I stuck to comics, because I managed to bring home some money. And that was my mother's orders.
Mm-hmm.
Bring home some money. And of course, whatever your mother told you to do, you did.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in comics, I began to make money. And I found out the better comics I did, the more money I made. And so I worked very, very, like I told you, I worked very hard. And my comics began to make money for the publishers, and I became deeply involved in the field with Joe Simon and whoever else was there. I knew all the early artists and the editors, and I knew Mort Weisinger well. I knew Murray Boltnoff and whoever was at Timely, and yes, I knew Julie Schwartz very well. So it was a good and decent and honest way to make money, and doing the thing I like best, telling stories. So I was carrying on a sort of family tradition, because that's what my family did. And telling stories was a way of easing your way of life. My father came from a very rigid discipline. My father was from the Austrian aristocracy. And but my mother was a peasant.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But the point is that aristocracy or peasant, what they did best was tell stories. And of course, they would tell stories under the street lamps. They would tell stories, all the folk tales that they learned in Europe were transferred to the young people that they bore here. Demons were real. So Dracula was as real to me as any horror could be, you know. That was real horror. So, remember, there was a time when we never had penicillin. I caught double pneumonia. Okay? I'm lying there on a bed. I'm a 9-year-old boy. And 10 rabbis are dancing around my bed.
Not a good sign.
And they're all saying, come out of this boy, demon. What's your name, demon? Don't hurt this boy, demon. And they were saying that in Yiddish, of course. And this kind of thing was very real. And I think it added to the type of storytelling that I would do later on in life, because my characters to me were real, just as they were to these Europeans. And the Europeans at that time were really aristocracy of peasants who would sit around fires. I'm sure Bram Stoker, who wrote Dracula, probably sat in with those peasants in Europe and listened to their stories around the fire, and he might have come back with Dracula.
Could very well be. We're taking calls now at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, and you're on the air.
Hi, as long as you're talking about demon, I was wondering, I think you touched a little bit on what might have been your inspiration for that. And also, what do you think about the future of computers and graphics? Do you think that's the way everything's going to go? And have you ever used any for graphics?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the word computers, is that it?
Yeah,
Computers.
Computers.
Oh, computers.
Yes.
Well, I think computers are machines that are waiting to do something. We don't know what it is they want to do, see, but we're helping them along. And one of these days they won't need our help. And that kind of day is going to be very uncertain for us. It's going to make things uncertain. And I think computers are going to become, in fact, they are a very important part of our lives. You're asking a very, very valid question.
Okay. Thank you for calling.
You didn't ask the other part of the question, John.
Oh, we'll get the call first, and we'll pick that up.
Let's take this call.
You're on hour 25. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, it's Jack Kirby. Are you, like, you're from New York, and are you, like, touring here? Because I went to your comic convention around, and you were there, but I missed it. So are you, where are you here for, just for vacation or what?
Oh, I've been to California for the last 20 years now.
Oh.
And I've enjoyed living in California thoroughly, and I don't know what'll happen tomorrow, but I think I'm still going to be in California.
Do you have, like, any business here?
My business has been here for the last 20 years, as I said.
Oh.
And I'm rarely idle.
All right. Thank you. Now, you and I, Larry, had no business being here at all.
No, at all.
And what was the other question that we didn't follow up on?
I think the gentleman asked, as long as we're talking about demons, if you could say something about the creation of Demon, the Demon comic.
Well, there is no such thing as the creation of demons. All right?
Genesis 1:1.
The devil has been here with us a long, long time. In fact, as long as the angels and God. It's man's evil and man's virtue, I believe, living side by side. And man has taken evil and virtue and given us many ways to look them over, to examine ourselves. That's what we really do when we write. We talk to others and we examine ourselves. What is evil and what is virtue? We'll probably never know, but it makes life interesting.